Yesterday, Venerable Children spoke about joy and shared some things that Song Rinpoche had said about taking joy in our practice. And she shared that according to him, the way to have joy is to have trust and faith. However, for some people, it's difficult to have faith and trust. For example, if one has had a bad experience with another religion or with authority figures like parents, teachers, priests, coaches, and so on, then it's kind of difficult to put your trust into other people and religions. But there are other ways that we can feel joy that might be easier, less challenging, such as rejoicing or feeling happy about good things that people do. So recently I signed up to receive a daily email from the Good News Network. I thought it would help me remember that there are lots of good things happening in the world, because most of the news outlets mainly talk about the bad news. So every day I get an email with about 3 or 4 positive, uplifting stories. And mainly I just look at the headlines, but there are a few that catch my attention, and I read the whole article. So this is one from August 27th. And this little boy's name is Edison. He's 5 years old. He lives with his parents in Seattle. And they had just come back from a holiday in Hawaii when the news came out about this fire in Maui. They hadn't gone to Maui, they went to another place, but they still had some connection with Hawaii. So one night the parents were watching the news and they were telling about this horrible fire. And the little boy was there and he felt very sad. And he said, "Please turn that off." So the parents thought it would be a good time to talk to him and teach him a life lesson about the world. And sometimes bad things happen in the world. And the little boy, whose name is Edison, right away he felt, "I want to help, let's do something." And he suggested setting up a lemonade stand, like one he had seen once somewhere else. His parents thought it was a great idea, and they went out and bought lots of lemonade, ice cream sandwiches, candy, and other stuff. And they opened the stand on a busy Seattle street on a warm Saturday, and the result was amazing. So the lemonade was $1 a cup, but people would sometimes give $5, $10, $20 and say, "Keep the change and put it to this good cause." And the parents also set up a way to donate online, like through social media. And so more donations came in that way. They also got their companies they worked for, to do a matching, 3 times matching whatever sales came from the lemonade stand. So by the end of the week, they had $17,000 to send to Lahaina. Is that how you say it, Lahaina? Yeah. And I think little Edison was just delighted. He probably didn't even have a concept about $17,000. He's used to nickels and dimes and things like that. And in an Instagram post, the mother said that her son now believes that he can make a difference and that he has good ideas and that it is important to care about our neighbors near and far. Isn't that beautiful? 5 years old. And so I couldn't help but think about my own childhood experiences. I can remember when I heard bad news about the awful stuff that was happening in the world, I just kind of closed in on myself. I withdrew, and I felt really depressed and unhappy and even angry and pessimistic. I kind of had this thought, oh, the world is a terrible place and people are terrible. And so I can't remember thinking, oh, there's something I can do. I'm going to do something. So I'm just really, so impressed that this little boy, and I've heard of other children as well, not always this young, but still, coming up with these ideas and this energy to do things about the world, to make it a better place. And I wonder if it could have to do with karmic imprints from the past. Yeah, if you did things like that in past lives, the thought would come up again, even, at such a young age. But maybe they're also emanations of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas coming into the world to inspire us to also do good things. Yeah, so I think it's helpful to spend some time each day paying attention to and thinking about stories like this, as well as just the things that we observe around us, people doing good things, and let ourselves feel glad and joyful. And Rick Hansen, who's a neuropsychologist and also a meditation teacher and author of the book Buddha's Brain, in that book he talks about the negative bias of the brain. This was something I'd never heard before, but it really kind of got to me. So they say that the brain tends to pay more attention to negative things and less attention to positive things. Also, the negative things like bad stories, bad news, and so on, they tend to stick to the brain more, like Velcro, whereas positive things tend to just slide off like Teflon. So that's how our brain works. And when I read this, then I thought, oh yeah, that sounds familiar. I can really relate to that. And when I've shared it with other people, they say, yeah, oh yeah, I thought I was the only one who was like that. But apparently it's quite normal. But Rick Hansen says that we can counteract this tendency by deliberately focusing on positive things. And they can be as simple as a beautiful flower or a smile on somebody's face or good things like this. Yeah, good news. And so pay attention to these things and let ourselves enjoy it. Let ourselves feel good. Even for 5 seconds. He said at least 5 seconds. Stay with that experience. And even kind of imagine it washing all over you, pervading you, filling you up completely. And so this is, one way of changing that negative bias of the brain, and also helps us to feel more happy. And so I think one way to do this is to read good news. So then, just to share another story from Good News. So there's this project called Ocean Cleanup, and it started in the Netherlands about 10 years ago. And they are cleaning up the oceans. Right now they're working on the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Have you heard of that? It's amazing. It's actually only one of 5. There are 5 of these garbage patches in the ocean. There's 2 in the Pacific, 2 in the Atlantic, and 1 in the Indian Ocean. But the biggest one is this Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which is somewhere between California and Hawaii. It's 2 times the size of Texas, 3 times the size of France, and it has 1.8 billion pieces of floating plastic, which kill thousands of marine animals every year. So the good news is Ocean Cleanup is doing something about it. They're cleaning up this plastic. So look at that. And they've just improved, so I guess they've been doing this for about 10 years, and they've just improved their technology so that they can clean up an area the size of a football field every 5 seconds. And what they do with the plastic is they recycle it. So they had one project where they made it into sunglasses, ocean cleanup sunglasses, which sold out really fast. And recently they made a deal with Kia, the car company, to put the plastic into Kia cars. So maybe that's what we should get next time we have a car. And I also found out there's at least one other company based in California that's also cleaning up all this garbage. And also, Ocean Cleanup has developed barges that can intercept plastic garbage in rivers, because I guess that's where a lot of it comes from. There's rivers flowing through human towns and cities, and people throw their garbage in, and then it floats out into the sea. And so they have these barges in the rivers to intercept that plastic. And they're already operating in places like Jakarta. I don't know how many people live there. It's a lot of people and a lot of garbage going in. And their goal is to reach a 90% reduction of floating ocean plastic by 2040. And it was a young person who started this project. 18-year-old Boyan Slot from the Netherlands in 2013. So when he was 16 years old, he was scuba diving off of Greece, and he saw more plastic bags than fish and thought, why can't this be cleaned up? And then following that, he did some research on this for a school assignment, and then did a TED Talk where he shared his ideas. 18 years old, shared his ideas in a TED Talk that went viral. And that enabled him to get the support he needed to start this company. Yeah, so good news. So, so I think that, we need to take care of our mind, our mental health, because if we only focus on the bad news, then we can get very depressed, very down, and that can be quite debilitating as well. Just the other night, there was a talk in Newport, and Tracy shared that she feels a lot of fear about all this climate problem, all these climate problems. And she said she got to the point where she just felt paralyzed. It just seemed so huge and insurmountable. So I think we need to be careful not to get to that point. Of course, we do need to know what's going on. We shouldn't be blind to it. But I think we need to balance the bad news with good news and know that, there are people doing things like this. And many of them are very young people, which is quite extraordinary. I mean, to start off that young, and then you could easily just devote your whole life to good deeds like this. So I think, we need to pay attention to the good news. And as Rick Hansen said, don't just let it slide off like Teflon, but stay with it. Let yourself savor that experience of good things for at least 5 seconds or longer, and let that energize yourself. I mean, I think we feel energy when we hear stories like this, these young people doing things. Well, we can do things too. And even if we can't do things on the ground or in the sea, the actually present doing those things, we can support it in other ways, making donations to these organizations and spreading the word. And I think this is really important, not just for our state of mind to be more happy and energized, but also for our Dharma practice. Because if we get depressed and have despair and pessimism, then our practice can suffer as well. So be joyful. Thank you.